across the board. A lot of good, solid college football matchups that will weigh into the national championship race and some conference races as well. But this one, I believe, is almost completely under the radar, except for the junkies like me. Purdue is hosting TCU. I've been eyeing this game the entire offseason as a under-the-radar, really good matchup between the Big Ten and the Big 12. We got Billy Wessels on the line from Purple Menace. That's the Rivals platform for TCU football. Billy, how you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing great. And college football rarely disappoints, and it certainly didn't on this particular week to Saturday. We had some great games, and I expect a good one here. When we look at TCU through the first week here with the bye week already. So first of all, how do you feel about the bye week? I can't necessarily believe that this was in a good spot for a team that came off a blowout of Arkansas Pine Bluff and only one game in the books.
Well, it's the early bye week is always interesting. This is a relatively young team still. A lot of places for this team to get better at, and they played very sloppy in week one. They had 7 fumbles in the Pine Bluff game, only lost 3 of them, I think, but still coughed the ball up too much, a couple dumb penalties. I think that this is a chance for guys to get better. Gary Patterson said this morning on the Big 12 media teleconference, this isn't a bye week, it's a get better week. And he thinks the defense is taking a big step forward than even they were against Pine Bluff, where they only allowed really one big play, like a 30-yard pass to set up a 1-yard touchdown run. But other than that, they played dominant against Pine Bluff. I get that it's Pine Bluff, and now you're playing Purdue with Rondale Moore, one of the most exciting players in the country. So I think it's going to be an exciting matchup, and TCU's coming into it at a pretty good time. The bye week came at an okay time. Julius Lewis, the second corner, is a little banged up right now, may or may not play in this game. He'll be a game-time decision, I think. So we'll see how this goes coming into Saturday.
Definitely. So a quarterback situation with Alex Delton coming in from Kansas State. He split time with Max Dugan in the Arkansas Pine Bluff game. Dugan looked better through the air, at least statistically, 16 of 23, Delton 10 of 22. But, of course, Delton did what we expect him to do on the ground, 7 carries, 67 yards. So how do you shake out the matchup?
Yeah, I think Delton starts again. It would not surprise me if they go 2 series on, 2 series off, which is kind of what they did the first game. If you watch the game, which I wouldn't blame anybody for missing this game because it was Pine Bluff, Delton had 2 passes that should have been touchdowns. One was a drop by the receiver. Another one was a fumble like the 3-yard line by the receiver that could have easily been a touchdown. So if those change and suddenly he has about 15 more yards and 2 touchdown passes, suddenly the line scores look totally different. A lot of his passes were underthrown, which has kind of been the MO on him. His arm isn't great. His legs are way better. His legs were dynamic and explosive on Saturday. He had like a 57-yard run in this game to set up a scoring drive. So he's explosive at times, but Duggan looked more complete. Just his passes look way better. He airmailed a couple, his first 3 college throws, a little airmailed. Remember, he's a true freshman. It's his first action ever. And then he had Jalen Reagor in stride for a 37-yard touchdown. So it's one of those things where as he gets more confident, I think he's going to be the guy of the future for TCU. And I think you see him a lot in this game against Purdue.
Darius Anderson's been a guy for TCU for quite a long time. He's a familiar name in the backfield. The carries distribution against Pine Bluff necessarily doesn't translate to the competitive games. So is it Darius Anderson number 1, or what's the distribution expected there?
I think Shawo's the number 1. Shawo was suspended for the first half of this Pine Bluff game. Had some issues in the offseason. So he played in the second half and still ended up leading the team in carries by running backs anyway. So I think he's going to be the number 1, and Darius is number 2. But they're more of like a thunder and lightning kind of duo, if you can imagine that, where Darius Anderson's really kind of the shifty speed guy. Shawo is a guy that's going to take 5 guys to tackle every time he touches the ball. So I think if TCU wants to, they can really control the clock in this game. That's kind of what I've been thinking all along. If both the quarterbacks are bad, just keep running the ball. You return your whole offensive line. You have both your running backs back from a year ago and a couple dynamic freshman running backs too. Darwin Barlow is a true freshman who scored a touchdown late in that game. Emory DeMarcado is a sophomore who played well in this game too as the third string back. So they have plenty of weapons in the backfield. If say Duggan and Delton both throw picks in the first quarter, you might see them just put the passing game away for a while and go to the ground. I think TCU can dominate that way too.
Yeah, people that know nothing about Purdue football, but one thing know the guy that you mentioned right off the top, Rondale Moore. He was a true All-American as a freshman, last year, just ridiculous numbers, 114 catches, 12 touchdowns. He got off to a great start against Nevada despite the loss, and then also tore up Vandy last week with ridiculous numbers. We know TCU, though, as an offensive unit that typically has quick twitch guys, those kind of guys, speedy, quick guys, a combination of both. We've seen them throughout the years. I got to think that those guys may be hearing a little bit too much about Rondale Moore this week and might be a little bit motivated to show that they can play too.
Yeah, Gary Patterson has a way of when he plays a team that has one guy, taking away that one guy. It's very much the Bill Belichick model where if you have one weapon, cool, I'm taking that away from you, beat me with your other guys. So I fully expect to see Jeff Gladney shadow Rondale Moore. TCU's second corner, Julius Lewis, the faster of the two corners. He runs a 4.2. 4.29 or something. He may or may not play with a knee injury, so he's a game time decision, like I said earlier. But Jeff Gladney is probably a second round pick, and as a lot of people graded as the best corner in the Big 12 this year. So he's up for the challenge of facing Rondale Moore, and I guarantee you he'll have help over the top between Trevon Merrick, who had an interception last week, Ardarius Washington had a pick last week, and then Vernon Scott is a senior safety. Also had a really good game as well. So I expect he'll have somebody shadowing him the entire game, along with the press coverage by Gladney. And even the linebackers are fast too. Garrett Wallow and LaKendrick Van Zandt were safeties in high school. They've moved to the linebacker spot. Garrett Wallow leads the team in tackles right now. I fully expect him to get 90 to 100 tackles this season. And has one speed, and it's 120%. He goes nonstop, a little too fast sometimes. So plenty of speed on that TCU defense to contain Rondale Moore and make them beat them another way. And right now, I don't know if Purdue necessarily has that. Their running backs are a question mark. Quarterback's a new guy, a little bit of a question mark there too. So I think TCU's defense can come in and slow down Rondale Moore enough. If they can hold him to one touchdown and 100 yards, that's a win. And TCU will probably win this game.
Yeah, maybe the one misconception about Rondale Moore, unless you watch him play, and certainly TCU is going to be watching him up close and personal and trying to tackle him, is that you just figure, okay, it's a short guy, he's quick, he's fast, he's a little guy. He's not a little guy. He's extremely thick and tough to bring down, so he's a physical guy as well, and his squat numbers are off the charts, and that was one of the things that they highlighted on a number of national broadcasts. When we look at the defense here for TCU, you've seen a couple other teams, or you've seen the entirety of the Big 12 play two games. I don't know that we can take a whole lot from it outside of obviously the headliner Texas and LSU. Iowa State plays Iowa this week, and West Virginia's decidedly down from what they were last year. Yeah. But is this going to be the best defense in the Big 12, you think?
Yeah, I think hands down. I think what we saw from Texas, they have the potential to be this good and close to good, but they're very young at the cornerback spot. I think they said that about a dozen times at the broadcast Saturday night. I think they can be solid, and they have the athletes to be solid. Same with Oklahoma. That first quarter of the Houston game, everyone's like, oh, Oklahoma's got a defense now. They can finally play defense. They can win the national title. And then Houston came back a little bit there in the second half, and Oklahoma is still learning how to play defense. And you just kind of plug and play TCU's defensive format. Gary Patterson's going to lead the best defense in the Big 12 yet again. And they say the Big 12 doesn't play defense. So what does that mean? Is that like being the tallest kid in your kindergarten class? I don't know. But what is that worth to anybody? So we'll see how it goes. I really do think this is a chance to be a top 5 defense in the Gary Patterson era. And he's had some staunch ones in the last 20 years. So a lot of potential there to be really good. And in this conference, like you said, West Virginia is I think really bad this year. Kansas State hasn't played anybody yet. Tech hasn't played anybody yet. I think those two teams won't be very good. Kansas obviously not very good. So the biggest questions are the Oklahoma schools, Texas, Baylor. Baylor looks like they can score some points, which we knew they could coming in. But can they play defense whenever they play anybody? So we'll see how this goes. But, I mean, TCU, like I said, was my pick to be in the Big 12 title game this year. They're at least in the top half of the conference, without a doubt.
Like to remind everyone that you can catch my week 3 predictions. Go to the link below next to Voice of College Football Community. Grab that link and you trail that right to my predictions and sign up for Voice of College Football Community. And also we've got a play with BetNow.eu. You sign up at BetNow.eu. We've got the link below as well. You see the hashtag Sam Strong. It goes for a good cause. St. Jude's Hospital, a number of YouTubers and myself teaming up with BetNow.eu, and you get 100% added to your account. So you throw in $100, you get $200. You play in front of the sticks, And you can also take my predictions, or you can leave them as well. 31-20 against the spread, though, will make you some money. That's what we did the first 2 weeks. So in terms of this one, it's a 1-point line. Billy, I'm sure you'll have your prediction on Purple Menace later in the week. But you mentioned Purdue's lack of a running game. They lost the two backs that gained them about 1,200 yards last year, DJ Knox and Markel Jones. So they're going to throw it all over the field, which is great. They'll compile yardage. Elisha Sindelar is a good quarterback, but maybe it also is susceptible, especially considering the speed on TCU's defense and hard-hitting nature, to turnovers. Do you feel pretty comfortable for it being basically an even Vegas game about TCU's strength on defense of being able to pull out a win on the road here?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. Like you mentioned, their speed. TCU, like the biggest attribute for Purdue is their speed in the passing game. Well, TCU has speed you won't really see in the Big Ten anywhere else outside of Ohio State and maybe just Ohio State this year. Michigan looks terrible. Penn State, I think they came on strong late in that game, but I know they didn't start well against Buffalo. I think TCU will be probably the second fastest team Purdue plays all year. So I think the speed can slow down Rondo Moore. Like you said, a young quarterback, a relatively inexperienced, no running game. I think TCU can give the young quarterback headaches and force some turnovers. The big issue for TCU last year, they were -12 the first 6 weeks in the turnover battle, and they needed to win those last 3 games to get bowl eligible. And of course, we saw the Cheez It Bowl with 9 interceptions in it. So I think this is a chance to be a defense that can force turnovers. And TCU says, and Gary Patterson says, more experienced defenses make more turnovers. We got a senior in Vernon Scott at safety. You got Ennis Gaines, a senior at safety. He was back from injury last year. Trevon Merrick-Woodard already got an interception at safety last week. Safety or senior cornerback and Jeff Gladney. This team's going to force some turnovers, and it wouldn't surprise me if TCU wins this turnover battle something like 3-1. But of course, TCU, like I said, fumbled the ball 7 times last week. So if they don't play any better, I expect it to be a close game coming down the stretch. Of course, 3 of those were muff punts by Jalen Reagor, and that won't happen every week. I think he'll be better this week about just making sure he tanks onto the football versus trying to make a play.
So would the number one concern be that your quarterbacks can't convert on third down by making the right decision or the accurate throw?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen that yet. We don't know what we know what Alex Delton is. We saw him for 3 years at Kansas State and then here for a game. We know he's an average at best passer with great wheels. Max Duggan's the ultimate question mark right now, is a guy that I thought maybe they'd wait to unveil till the second half of the year when you have Texas and Oklahoma on the schedule, give him a guy they have no tape on. Maybe they'll come out and surprise him a little bit, like Ian Book with Notre Dame last year, or kind of Jake Fromm at Georgia when he started in place of Eason, I think was the starter at the time, came in and took the job. So this is the ultimate question mark. Can these younger, or maybe not younger, can these unproven quarterbacks make the plays when necessary to win a big game on the road in a tough environment? Purdue, we all watched that game last year against Ohio State. I don't know if game day was there or not, but there was the kid, Trent Taylor, was that his name? Trent something?
Oh, I'll come up with it.
I think
that wasn't quite it. I can't come up with it either, though.
Obviously a great story there, and they've named the student entrance after him. So I'm going to the game this weekend. I'm pretty excited to go check all that out. Obviously, I'm wearing my Saints shirt. I'm a big Drew Brees fan, so I'm going to go see where he kind of wrecked some shop for a couple years. So, yeah, I'm excited for this game, and I think TCU can hang around and possibly pull out the W with the strength of this defense.
Tyler Trent would be the young man that bravely fought cancer and has led so many to the cause to raise money and so forth there at Purdue. Talking TCU and Purdue, everyone's talking Texas, Oklahoma as the matchup at the Big 12 championship game, like a foregone conclusion, but keep your eye on TCU if they can get some productivity out of the quarterback spot. And I'm intrigued by this matchup against Purdue. The Boilers just imploded against Nevada the second half with a 17-point lead, but then they were showing some resilience and bouncing back to, I don't want to say dominate Vandy, but clearly be the best team on the field, winning by 18 in that one. Billy Wessels, check out his work at Rivals Purple Menace to lock in on TCU football. The games are going to start to get important. I know that TCU's been off the radar with the bye week and the Arkansas Pine Bluff game, but they dive into it, Big 10 and the Big 12 matchup, and it's always fun when the two conferences get together as well. Billy, we appreciate you stopping by.
Of course, anytime, man.